Good morning everyone. This video is a video for any students that are studying the Eduqas English Language GCSE specification, and in this video we are focusing particularly today on English Language Component 2, Section B, so the transactional or the non-fiction writing section, and we're looking at writing a report. So, as a reminder, for this particular paper, you are asked to write 2 short non-fiction texts, and that's different from other exam boards. So you need to be very aware when you're revising that Eduqas asks you to write 2. It's not a choice, you have to write both of them. They're expecting you to write something that's a little bit shorter, so maybe something that's about a page long, 300 to 400 words. As always, with all of the elements of writing with Eduqas, there is a strong emphasis on accurate writing and writing where it sounds like you are a teenager. They're not expecting you to sound like an academic. They're not expecting you to sound like a newspaper journalist. They want this to have the voice of a teenager, but to focus on that development, that detail, as well as accuracy. And then for every single one of the writing tasks that you do for component 2, you need a range of ideas. So no matter what they ask you to write, and we'll just have a little look at the selections now. So these are the ones that they could ask you to write. For each of these, you are going to want a range of ideas that you discuss. So, and that would come out, and we'll look at the planning in a minute, at sort of 3 main paragraphs. So they could ask you to write any 6 of these. So article, talk, letter, guide, review, report. And I've put them on the screen there in the kind of order of how frequently Eduqas are asking them. So they are most frequently asking students to write articles, letters, guides and talks, and sometimes they mix up the article and the guide, so they're like for an article that is a guide to something. The 2 that are least likely to be set is review and reports. So we have had review once, we have not had report yet, but it's on their list of the 6 text types that you need to know, so it's worth revising it. So this is what we're going to look at today, the reports. Again, for every text type that you write, you are going to have need to have a really clear understanding of the text type and how it's laid out and how it should sound and what it needs to include in it, as well as who your audience is and what your purpose is. So we're going to have a look at some of those text types. You're going to think very carefully and make sure you're reading the prompt very carefully so that you understand who your audience are. Sometimes they will ask you to write for an audience that is your peers. Sometimes they will ask you to write for an audience that is strangers who you don't know. That information will help you choose the style and tone of your text. Then the purpose of your text, and this will be implicit in the prompt that you're given, and sometimes it will be a combination of any of these. The text that you are writing will require you to give information, to describe or explain something. Sometimes you might also then want to give advice or to persuade. The text might be designed to have an entertainment element where you are maybe talking to your peers about how to survive their GCSEs. Sometimes you're making an argument, the pros and cons, the fors and against of something. So being very clear on that purpose and having something prepared for what is the point of your text will really help you. All right, so over the next 10 minutes we're going to focus on the reports. A report then, so this is a very formal piece of writing that gives factual information about a situation. It discusses that particular topic in detail, and then it gives recommendations. So this is the sort of possible task that might be set if the exam board wanted you to write a report. So your school is interested in teenagers' use of technology. Write a report for your school leaders exploring teen use of technology. So that would need to be formally written. It would need to give a lot of information about about how teenagers use their technology, and to maybe consider some of the pros and cons of technology and school and that sort of thing. And then it would give some recommendations. So this is the general layout that we are going with for all of your texts for component 2 section B. You're going to have a little introduction, and obviously as part of that you might have a title, your little introduction, which is 2 or 3 sentences where you give an overview of the topic. Then you have your 3 main paragraphs, and that gets you the range that the exam board wants, and you need to make sure that you've planned to include in there the specific information that you want to discuss, your details, your examples, and for the report, your recommendation about what you think should be done. Then you're going to have your conclusion, where you restate your key ideas, and maybe you say, I think the most important thing to discuss now is this most urgent recommendation, the first thing. So the report is the most formal of the text types that you could be asked to do. And because of that, you are going to have to change the tone and the style of your writing to match that formality. So you're going to want to avoid using certain phrases that might be acceptable in other types of text type. So you're going to want to avoid using things like I think or my idea is, and instead you could use something like it could be argued that. You're going to want to avoid using a lot of the casual language or slang that we use when we're talking every day. So things like lots or a lot or really or very or something is great or sort of or kind of. And you just edit those out. They're just not needed. And that will then help make your sentence more formal. So for every single one of your non-fiction writing texts, it's absolutely essential that you plan before you start writing. So our topic is tech. We need to come up with a report that we're going to write for our school leaders. So we're looking specifically at teenagers in our school and how they use tech. And in the exam, you can just do a little mind map. There's space at the bottom of the question prompts for you to do that. So you're going to think about what are your 3 main ideas to do with teenagers and technology, and you're going to think about what would your recommendations be. So I have said, let's have a look then at teens and how they use their phones, and that could be anything from how long they're on their phone, when they're on their phone, what are they using their phones for. My second idea would be to talk about gaming and the sorts of games and how long students are gaming for. And then thirdly, probably a little bit like my school, your school uses technology, it uses websites, it uses online quizzing platforms for homework or for schoolwork. And so the use of technology, the increased hours online that students are doing to complete their schoolwork. So we've got our 3 main paragraphs. Then we need our 3 recommendations, and that's simply what you think the school can do to help teenagers. So this would be to ban phones in school. Whether you agree or disagree with it, that would be what you would go for, to give teenagers a break from being online all the time during the school day. Gaming. Now, again, you can decide whether you think that parents should reduce hours, but again, you're writing for school leaders, so it needs to be something that schools can do. So then you could think about, could they educate teens and parents about issues like online chat forums, the kind of Discord servers that go with many of the games that students play, the issue of sleep, are they staying awake all night gaming and their parents aren't even aware? And then thirdly, that whole idea of homework being online, that schools should maybe reduce how much online homework that they set, and they give students other activities to do that are not putting them back on screens. Okay, so we've got our 3 ideas and we've got our 3 recommendations. We know that we need to write something that's really formal. Then we go and we start. So we start off with our title, Teens and Technology. And then the report is full of little sections, and that helps you structure your text really well. So your first section and your first subheading is going to be introduction, and we're going to have something like this report explores. So this report explores, and then you've got the prompt to help you. The use of technology by students at, and then your school name. You don't have to make your school name up. I've used Daydreamers School, including recommendations that the school can implement. Then you go into your first idea, and again, give it a subheading, so mobile phone use. On average, teenagers at our school spend 4 hours a day on their phones. This includes before school, during the school day, and after school. In fact, 80% of teens admitted using their phone during the school day, whether it is messaging, Snapchat, social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram. It's true to say that our teens are chronically online. We need to intervene quickly. The recommendation we would make based on our research is that mobile phones should be banned in school immediately. This will give students a break from their phones during the day and will allow them to focus on their studies. All right, so firstly, you can see that we have got the main idea, and we've got some information about that main idea, and we've got a recommendation and why we're giving that recommendation, the reasons behind it. In addition to that, to make this seem realistic, to make it seem like it could be true, we've got some facts. 4 hours a day on their phones. 80% of teens admitted. We've got a statistic. Then we've got examples of the things that students are doing. So Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. Then we've got an opinion. They're chronically online. So you're showing a range of devices there, but they're used in a very naturalistic and normal fashion. It doesn't sound overly wordy. It's not technique heavy. It's very clear and formal. Then we have some of the accuracy things that the exam board are looking for. So we've got our varied sentence starters, formal sentence starters. On average, this includes it, in fact, whether it is, importantly. We've got a nice short sentence there used for effect. We need to intervene quickly. And we've got that formal tone. Instead of saying I or my, we talk about we as if this is something that's happened officially. So let's go through some reminders before we finish. Firstly, for all of the texts that you're writing, you are doing 1 page, about 300 or 400 words. For all of them, you're looking for 3 main ideas, and then those are topped and tailed by your little introduction and conclusion. For the report specifically, you are looking for something that is very formal. It's factual, it's informative, it uses examples and reasons. You include those relevant details. You're not speaking like in a generalistic or a vague way. And then again, for the report specifically, you're giving recommendations. I hope you found this video helpful. Keep an eye on my channel for more videos in the future. Have a good day.